The young black girl helped the millionaire fix his Mustang. When he saw the ring on her finger, his entire life was turned upside down. The harsh late-afternoon sun made the rural road shimmer with heat as Aaliyah Carter walked home from school. The 10-year-old girl slowed her pace when she spotted a shiny red Shelby GT 500 Mustang parked on the roadside, its hood gaping open like a mouth in shock. A white man, in a suit likely worth more than all the furniture in her house, was pacing around the car, shouting into his phone, "I don't care how much you charge for the tow. I've been stuck on this godforsaken road for 2 hours already. I have a meeting with the governor." He glanced at his solid gold watch. Less than 3 hours left, for God's sake. Aaliyah paused to consider whether she should keep walking. Aunt Nia always warned her not to talk to strangers, especially those who clearly looked out of place in their modest rural neighborhood, a black community about 2 hours outside of Boston. But something in the man's desperation made her stop. She adjusted her worn-out backpack filled with school books and, more importantly, the small toolkit Uncle Jelena mechanic had given her, always insisting that everyone should know the basics of an engine. "Hello, sir," Aaliyah said cautiously as she stepped closer. "Is your car broken?" Ethan Caldwell, CEO of Caldwell Enterprises and owner of half the commercial real estate in Boston, turned around in surprise. The irritation on his face quickly shifted to a condescending expression when he saw the small girl with brightly colored braids, faded shorts, and an oversized MIT t-shirt. "That's very kind of you, sweetheart. But this is a high-performance vehicle. I need a real mechanic." Aaliyah shrugged, stepped closer, and peered into the engine compartment. "My uncle owns his own garage and has been teaching me about cars since I could walk. I can at least take a look." Before Ethan could protest, she had already set her backpack down and leaned over the engine with surprising confidence. "When did the car start acting up?" she asked, in a remarkably professional tone. Ethan sighed, realizing he didn't have much to lose. "The engine started overheating about 40 minutes ago, then suddenly shut off." "Did you smell something sweet, like syrup?" Ethan blinked, surprised. "Yeah, now that you mention it, I did. How did you know?" "Coolant system," Aaliyah said, pointing to a small puddle under the car that Ethan hadn't even noticed. "It's leaking coolant. That's why the engine overheated." As the girl spoke, Ethan watched her with growing curiosity. There was something oddly familiar about her, the way she furrowed her brow in concentration, the intelligent eyes scanning engine parts with practiced precision. "What's your name?" he asked suddenly. Aaliyah Carter." She extended her hand, grease-stained and confident. He shook it hesitantly. "Ethan Caldwell," he replied. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Caldwell. I think I can patch it up for now." Aaliyah unzipped her backpack and pulled out a small metal box. "Uncle Jalen makes me carry an emergency kit everywhere," she said. "You never know who might need help on the road." Ethan watched, fascinated, as the girl worked swiftly and precisely locating the leak in the radiator hose and sealing it with a special kind of tape. "This should hold until you get into town," she explained, "but you'll need to add water to make up for the lost coolant." It was the moment Aaliyah reached up to brush her hair from her face that Ethan saw it a ring with a green emerald set in an antique gold band, snug around her small finger with thread wrapped around the base to make it fit. Ethan's entire world seemed to freeze. Sunlight caught the stone, casting a reflection that revealed an inner detail he recognized. Instantly, a tiny, crescent-shaped flaw. The ring he had given to a little girl named Aaliyah at the Little Angels orphanage 12 years ago, just days before the place had abruptly shut down. "That ring," Ethan began, his voice trembling. "It's very special." Aaliyah looked down at her hand. "It belonged to my mom. My adoptive mom, Zuri. She passed away last year. A flicker of sadness crossed her face. She said it was a symbol of an important promise. Do you know where she got the ring? Ethan asked. Aaliyah shrugged. She never said exactly, just that it came from someone very special, and that one day I'd understand what it meant. Ethan tried to steady himself and offered to drive Aaliyah home to thank her. She hesitated only briefly before agreeing. On the way, Ethan asked a series of seemingly casual questions: where she went to school, how long she had lived in the area, and who she stayed with after her adoptive mother passed away. I live with Aunt Nia and Uncle Jalen, Aaliyah answered. They've taken care of me since Mom Zuri passed. Have you always lived here? Ethan asked, trying to keep his voice even as his hands tightened on the steering wheel. Since I was 3, Aaliyah said. Before that, Aaliyah hesitated. Mom Zuri didn't talk about it much. I just know I was adopted from a place called Little Angels. The orphanage shut down soon after. Ethan nearly swerved off the road. Little Angels, are you sure? Yes. Why? Aaliyah asked. Do you know it? Ethan took a deep breath. I do, a long time ago. When they arrived at a modest but tidy house, Ethan pulled the car to a stop. Aaliyah thanked him and got ready to leave. But just before she stepped out, he handed her a business card. Aaliyah, if you ever need anything at all, call me. She took the card with a curious look, then stepped out. Ethan watched as she ran toward the house, the ring on her finger catching the sunlight. His hands trembled as he picked up his phone and called his private investigator. What Aaliyah didn't know, as she waved goodbye to the stranger in the expensive car, was that this chance encounter had just set in motion a chain of events that would unveil secrets buried for more than a decade. Secrets that connected a multi-billion-dollar empire, a mysteriously shuttered orphanage, and a young black girl with an extraordinary gift for fixing what's broken. Ethan had spent 3 sleepless nights staring at the enlarged photos of the emerald ring his investigator had taken. The same gemstone he had once given to a little girl named Aaliyah at the Little Angels orphanages, a promise that he would come back for her. A promise he had never kept. In his office at Caldwell Enterprises, Ethan sifted through the scattered documents on his desk. 12 years ago, his father, Lucas Caldwell, had acquired the Little Angels facility for a suspiciously low price, citing financial irregularities. Coincidentally, Ethan had been appointed CEO not long afterward. Mr. Caldwell, Mr. Evans from Legal is here with the Horizon Project files, his assistant announced. The Horizon Project, a luxury complex now under construction on the very land where the orphanage once stood. Ethan quickly stashed the scattered documents just before Evans walked in. These are the acquisition files for Little Angels, Evans said, though I'm not quite sure why we're revisiting this. My father insisted we keep the documentation, Evans added. My father is now retired in Florida, Ethan replied coldly, and this company is under my leadership. Upon closer inspection, Ethan discovered suspicious fund transfer sand. More troubling, a list of children who had been relocated when the orphanage shut down. Aaliyah Carter's name was circled in red with a handwritten note. Special case. Contact HW. Detective Ramirez called in. I found the file on Zuri Carter. Car accident last year. Brake failure. Signs of foul play. What about the adoption records? Officially missing. There's no documentation confirming that Aaliyah Carter ever existed at Little Angels. Find everything you can on the girl's current family, Ethan ordered. Meanwhile, Aaliyah was working in the small workshop behind her aunt and uncle's house. It was her sanctuary tools, neatly arranged on the walls, the familiar scent of motor oil bringing her a sense of peace. Did you manage to fix that old radio? Jalen asked as he stepped inside. Aaliyah smiled and held up the vintage radio from the 950s. Yep, just had to reconnect a few wires. Jalen gently tousled her braided hair. You've got a gift, kid. I've never seen anyone understand machines the way you do. Hey, Uncle, do you think my mom would be proud? Zuri would be so proud, her heart would burst, he said warmly. Aaliyah. She absent-mindedly turned a ring on her finger. I met this rich guy a few days ago. His car broke down, and I helped fix it. He recognized my ring. Jalen froze. Who? Ethan Caldwell. He gave me his business card. Aaliyah handed him the card. Jalen looked at it, and his face went pale. He glanced over at Nia, who had just walked in. Aaliyah, sweetheart, Nia said tensely. Remember when we promised to tell you the truth about your mom, Zuri, when you were older? That time has come. That night, Aaliyah heard the full hidden story. Zuri, a nurse at the orphanage, had fled with Aaliyah when the facility was suddenly shut down. They had changed their names and lived in hiding for years, always watching their backs. Your mother left this for you, Nia said, handing her a yellowed old envelope. She made us promise to only give it to you if someone from the Caldwell family ever showed up. Aaliyah's hands trembled as she opened the letter. My dearest Aaliyah, if you're reading this, it means someone has found you. There are things you need to know. At Ethan's apartment, Ramirez called again. Sir, there's someone else looking into Little Angels. A journalist named Elijah Brooks. How much does he know? Ethan asked. A lot. And he has a theory that your father took a particular interest in certain children at the orphanage, specifically those with unusual talents. The next day, a black SUV pulled up in front of Aaliyah's school. Two men in suits watched as she walked out with her friends. That her? One asked. The girl with the emerald ring. Yeah, Mr. Caldwell Sr. wants to see her immediately. But what they didn't know was that Jalen was parked across the street, watching. He pulled out his phone and dialed the number Zuri had left him years ago for emergencies only. Elijah Brooks, Jalen said. This is about little angels and a girl wearing an emerald ring. I've found the evidence you've been looking for. At the Caldwell Enterprises headquarters, Ethan stared directly at his father Lucas, who had flown in from Florida unannounced. What's going on? Lucas sparked. Why are you digging through the Little Angels files? I thought we put that matter to rest. I found Aaliyah Carter, Ethan said calmly. The girl with the emerald ring. Lucas went pale. So what? Just another orphan. What matters is the Horizon Project. There's $1 billion on the line. What's so special about that girl? Lucas scoffed. You still don't understand what's at stake, do you? Some of those children had value, talents that could be exploited. She fixes things, Ethan said slowly. She looks at broken machines and instantly understands what's wrong. Lucas's smile turned cold. Think military applications, patents, power. Why do you think I bought that orphanage in the first place? But neither of the Caldwells knew that at that very moment, Aaliyah was reading Zuri's letter uncovering the truth about her past, her extraordinary gift, and most importantly, the real reason the emerald ring was so precious. It wasn't just a piece of jewelry. It was a keyon that unlocked documents capable of bringing down an entire empire. The pieces were beginning to fall into place. On one side, a powerful corporation willing to do anything to keep its secrets buried. On the other, a 10-year-old girl with a remarkable gift and a ring worth far more than the gemstone it held. And in the middle, a man struggling to decide which side of the story he truly belongs to. The boardroom on the 50th floor of Caldwell Enterprises buzzed with anxious executives. Lucas Caldwell had called an emergency meeting. His usually composed face was now a mask of fury. "Where's my son?" he bellowed, slamming his hand down on the glass table. "He was supposed to be here an hour ago." As if on cue, the double doors swung open. Ethan stepped in, calm and composed, accompanied by a woman in a tailored suit no one in the room recognized. "Sorry I'm late, Father," Ethan said, his voice so steady it made Lucas frown. "This is Federal Prosecutor Claire Bennett. She has a few questions about Project Prometheus." Lucas went pale. Project Prometheus, the code name for a covert program designed to identify and exploit gifted children. A name never meant to be spoken aloud, let alone in front of federal authorities. "What do you think you're doing?" Lucas hissed through clenched teeth. Ethan stepped up to the large wall-mounted screen and connected his laptop. "What I should have done a long time ago," he said. "The truth about Little Angel Sand, 5 other facilities you shut down over the past 15 years. The lights dimmed. The screen lit up with documents, images, and reports. Detailed files on 48 gifted children identified, tested, and exploited by Caldwell Enterprises." "You stole classified company data," Lucas snapped, trying to regain control. "That's corporate theft, industrial espionage." "No," Ethan replied calmly. "This is evidence of something far worse. Unlawful experimentation on minors, falsified adoption records, bribery of officials, witness intimidation." A video began to play grainy security footage from 12 years ago. A young nurse whom Ethan now recognized as Zuri Carter fleeing in the night, with a child in her arms. Then a new clip, Lucas barking orders to security. "Find her. That child has major military potential. We cannot lose her." 3 Little Angels staff members died in accidents in the weeks that followed, Ethan continued, including Zuri's brother, the one who had started asking questions. "You don't understand the consequences," Lucas began, but was cut off as the doors burst open once more. Aaliyah Carter stepped into the room, walking beside Uncle Jalen and a man carrying a professional video camera, Elijah Brooks, from the Boston Globe. "Aaliyah," Ethan whispered, "you didn't have to come here." "But I did," Aaliyah replied, her voice remarkably calm for a child. "My mom used to say, one day, I'd have to face the people who made us run." Lucas stared at the girl, his expression shifting from shock to a cold, calculating gaze. "So, you're Project 17. I didn't expect you to be so small." "And you're the one who killed my mother," Aaliyah replied. Her eyes locked on his without blinking. "The brakes on her car didn't fail by accident, did they?" Lucas smiled, regaining his composure. "No one can prove anything, and you seem to forget who I am. One phone call, and all of this disappears." Aaliyah reached into her backpack and pulled out the emerald ring. With trembling fingers, she twisted the gemstone, revealing a hidden compartment. From inside, she retrieved a small storage device. "My mom was smarter than you thought," she said. "This is a data drive." She hid it in the ring. "It contains copies of all the Little Angels files, including audio recordings of your meetings with military doctors about using cognitively gifted children for strategic applications." For the first time in his life, Lucas Caldwell was speechless. "It's all being streamed live," Elijah Brooks explained, gesturing to the camera. "To the networks and social media. Over 10,000 people are watching right now." Ethan stepped closer to his father and lowered his voice. "It's over. The prosecutors made me an offer for cooperation in exchange for immunity." He paused, eyes steady. "As for you, we'll let the jury decide." Federal agents entered the room to take Lucas Caldwell into custody. Aaliyah stepped toward the man who had ruined so many lives. "My mom taught me that broken machines can be fixed," she said calmly. "But broken people have to fix themselves. I hope you get that chance in prison." Lucas was led away, his empire collapsing in real time for the whole world to see. In the days that followed, Caldwell Enterprises' stock plummeted. Investigations uncovered decades of unethical practices, illegal experimentation, and systemic corruption. Ethan watched it all unfold with a complex mix of relief and regret. He had lost his family and the fortune he was meant to inherit, but he had regained something far more valuable: his conscience and his integrity. At the courthouse, while Lucas awaited his preliminary hearing, Aaliyah met Ethan on the steps outside. "What happens now?" she asked, the emerald ring gleaming on her finger, no longer a symbol of buried secrets, but of truth brought into the light. Ethan looked out toward the city skyline, where towering buildings stood, many built with money stained by exploitation and pain. Among them was the gleaming Caldwell Tower, soon to be renamed. "Now," he said, "we rebuild, not just the buildings, but lives." What neither of them could foresee at that moment was that this rebuilding wouldn't just transform their own lives, it would ripple outward to reshape an entire community. An empire built on exploitation was crumbling. But from its ashes, something new, something unexpected was about to rise. Something that would change the way the world saw talent in places it had never bothered to look. 5 years had passed since the day Aaliyah Carter exposed the truth about the Caldwell Empire. On a radiant spring morning, Aaliyah, now 15, walked through the halls of the Carter Center for Young Innovators. A vast complex of laboratories, fabrication workshops, and classrooms built on the very ground where the Little Angels orphanage once stood. "The sensors in the East Wing are still glitching," Aaliyah said to the team of engineers trailing behind her. With eyes sharpened by experience, she effortlessly spotted flaws in complex systems, just as she once recognized the leak in that Mustang all those years ago. At the back of the center, Ethan Caldwell spoke with a group of investors, his tailored suits now replaced by jeans and a simple button-down shirt. The man who was once heir to a billion-dollar empire had since donated his entire personal fortune to launch the Prometheus Initiative Venno, a program of exploitation, but one devoted to discovering gifted youth from underserved communities and giving them a genuine chance to thrive. "Just this quarter, we've identified 23 children with exceptional abilities," Ethan explained. "Each of them receives a full scholarship and one-on-one mentorship. No contracts, no exploitation, no secrets." Ethan's transformation had stunned many, especially the former executives at Caldwell Enterprises. The man who once led a system built on human exploitation was now devoting his life to righting those wrongs and creating real opportunity where none had existed before. "Aaliyah's about to file her third patent," said Jalen, now head of the center's engineering program. "Harvard, MIT, and Stanford are practically fighting over her." On the main wall of the center was an exhibit chronicling the full story. Photos of the orphanage, newspaper clippings documenting the collapse of Caldwell Enterprises, and the headline that had changed everything: "Caldwell Empire Falls After Teen's Revelation." Meanwhile, in a medium-security federal prison, Lucas Caldwell sat silently in his cell, staring at the wall. The former tycoon who once controlled billions and commanded a vast web of influence now lived in isolation, abandoned by his allies. His assets seized, his name forever disgraced. "He refuses to join any rehabilitation programs," one guard remarked. "He still thinks he'll get out and rebuild everything from scratch." The arrogance that once defined him had faded into something hollow, a pitiful shadow of a man, clinging to delusions of power that would never return. That evening, the Carter Center held its very first graduation ceremony. 12 teens from underserved communities had completed the 2-year intensive program, each of them leaving with a job offer or a full university scholarship. Aaliyah, though still too young to graduate, was recognized by her older peers as a mentor and invited to speak on stage. "When I was 10, she began, gently turning the emerald ring on her finger, no longer a symbol of secrecy, but of transformation. I fixed a stranger's car by the side of the road. That small act uncovered a vast network of exploitation, but it also opened the door to something new, something better." Ethan stood at the back of the auditorium, eyes misty. The girl who had once shattered his old world had, in truth, given him a purpose no inheritance could ever buy. My adoptive mom, Zuri, used to say, "Broken machines can be fixed, but broken systems need to be redesigned from the ground up," Aaliyah continued. "That's what we're doing here. Not just repairing what was wrong, but building something entirely new." The next day, Aaliyah received an unexpected letter. The sender was Victoria Caldwell Lucas's daughter, who had renounced the family name after the scandal and now worked as a federal prosecutor. "We've uncovered 5 more orphanages running programs similar to Little Angels. Thanks to your testimony and the evidence you gathered, we've been able to identify and protect 37 more children. Some of them have gifts like yours. When you're ready, they'd very much like to meet you." As Aaliyah read the letter aloud to Ethan, Uncle Jalen, and Aunt Nia, a quiet sense of closure settled over the room. A journey that had begun with a chance encounter on the side of the road had become a quiet revolution that had transformed not only their lives, but an entire system once built on the exploitation of the vulnerable. "You know what's ironic?" Ethan said softly. "My father used to say he was building a legacy, and in a way, he did, just not the one he imagined." Aaliyah looked out the window, watching the children playing freely in the center's garden. Free, not manipulated, not monitored, not treated as strategic assets the way she nearly had been. "Real power doesn't come from buildings or bank accounts," she said. "It comes from the ability to make a difference in someone else's life." That evening, as the sun set behind the Carter Center, a new sign was raised at the front gates. "Every talent deserves to be nurtured. Every child deserves to be free." It was a promise to the future built on the ashes of a past they were determined never to repeat.